to go.
Okay. Well, we're not going to start too early, but we still have another 6 minutes. So hang in
Okay,
there. Thank you
I'll
for
wait,
joining
I'll
us,
wait.
Annie. Okay.
Don't remind me, I'll wait.
What am I not going to do? Don't what you?
Don't wait, don't, what did I say?
Don't cry me?
Don't mind me.
Oh, don't mind me. Okay. No problem. I'm not, I don't mind. I just want to be able to kind of answer all the questions for everyone. So once we start, we'll get into professional applied kinesiology and homeopathy and nutrition and herbs and right-left brain
Awesome.
balancing. A lot of these
Awesome.
things, some of these things Dr. Hyman talks about, but he's a medical doctor. So when you're looking at conventional medicine, the big difference is that they don't have any therapies at all to help with chronic conditions because it's an emergency care health model. So on a battlefield or when somebody's dying, it can be really helpful, or if somebody's arm is hanging off or something. But when we're talking about, chronic health conditions, which is what we're going to talk about today, inflammation, the health concerns that most people have, Western medicine's not very good. It's kind of terrible. So, so that's the thing. So if that's your training, you really need it for helping people with surgeries and helping people to survive, if they're having a heart attack or something, but it's not just like you wouldn't want me to do a surgery. You wouldn't want a medical doctor to give you herbs and nutrition unless they got extra training on how to do that,
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to situate myself to understand the different areas of medical. And so it sounds like you made the difference between a psychologist and the functional medicine.
Right.
So I'm teaching myself because this functional medicine is a new thing to me. And I try to understand today.
Oh, good. It's good that you're trying to understand new things. I mean, life is about learning, right? And if you can't keep learning things, life gets a little bit tedious and boring,
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't want to just go to a doctor and they just subscribe a medicine for me.
Hi, Teresa. Hi, Anne. Hi, Annie. Hi, Exquisitely, Cynthia. Thank you, Rima.
Hi.
Hi. Good to have you on the webinar.
Everyone.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for keeping in contact with me since on Sunday.
Yeah, you're welcome. You got to do what you got to do. Nobody else is doing this, I don't think. That's what a lot of people
appreciate that.
Say it again.
I'm going to be eating while I'm listening, but I have significant arthritis and it's impinging on nerves. So that's what I'm really interested in.
Okay. Well, we decided to start a little early for looks like there's like about 7 or 8 of you that we're starting early for. So if you get muted by an accident, then you can always unmute yourself or you can mute yourself, whatever works. But we're going to start in less than 3.5 minutes. We're starting early. So when we talk about something like arthritis, for example, we're talking about inflammation because from the Latin itis, that means that's what inflammation is. Inflammation, pericarditis, arthritis, sacroiliitis, anything with that itis at the end. So even though I'm talking about inflammation for a whole hour, the thing about it that's really entertaining to me is that it doesn't really mean anything specific. It's more just talking about almost all disease that involves the development of like a response that's an unhealthy response, right? So if you have something like a poison enter the body, then there's going to be pain because you're not supposed to have these poisons come in. And then there becomes an immune response, and then you have inflammation. But the problem is that obviously most of us are having so many poisons coming into our systems every day It's actually more like, it's about 10,000 times more poisons than our ancestors did. So almost everyone has inflammation, or if not everyone, but then if it's too much inflammation, we get an inflammatory disease, and that's not so good. You know, you need some inflammation, but you don't want to be walking around, you know, barely able to function or think straight because the inflammation is so overwhelming. We have only 1 minute left. This is so exciting.
Can we invite other people? Because my son is very interested in this topic. How do I invite him to watch this video?
Well, we're starting the video now, so just hold your horses. You could send them a link that you got.
Oh,
So,
okay. I'll
yeah.
send him the link.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking about pain, inflammation, swelling, irritation, aggravation, annoyance. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about inflammation. And I'm going to introduce myself in a minute. We're starting officially right now. This is exciting. Okay, so we're going to go over a whole bunch of things. One of the things we'll go over is how what we do is different than what everyone else is doing, because I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people are having, you know, they're kind of disenchanted with the medical profession because the medical profession is telling them things that are ridiculous. It's like, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, we could say they're lies, but they're kind of ridiculous. So anyway, I mean, there's, you know, I could stop. I'm putting it really nicely here. I'd say that it's beyond that. All right. I'm trying to see.
You are right, because the other day, the doctor, sometime in December, she because my results were high, my immunoglobulin was high, the T3, T4 were high. She called me, you better come for iodine therapy. Your legs must be swollen by now. I said, no, my legs are not swollen. I'm sure I must have eaten what I'm not supposed to eat. She said, no. She wants to quarrel with me. Then I stopped picking up their calls.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know. It's hard. Sometimes it can be tricky being a doctor, whether you're a good doctor or a bad doctor. But the problem is you need to have certain skills and training. I'm still trying to find out if there's like a way to like mute people or not mute people. I'll figure it out at some point, but we're starting here. So if for some reason you're trying to talk and you can't hear yourself, or I can't hear you, it's just because I'm trying to get through the whole webinar. So we'll be able to find a way for you to unmute yourself also if for some reason you get muted. Okay, so that's me, Dr. Skolnikoff. I'm the international award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and creator of the Skolnikoff Method, New Medicine for a New You, my new book, an inflammation solutions handbook, where we go over autoimmune disease, thyroid disease, mood disorders, hormone imbalances, and gut health. And so what you'd want to think of me as being like a puzzle solver, and then yourself and our other patients as being like the puzzles that we solve. Yep. So I guess that's the easiest way to think of it, because you know, it's like a lot of people are having a health concern and they're not happy with the way that things are going with the symptoms that they have, and they want help from someone. And sometimes people just keep going to the same style of doctors. You know, they go from one doctor to another, but if you go to see 10 surgeons, every surgeon is going to have an answer that involves surgery. You know, I mean, it's not like one of the surgeons is going to say, well, I think you need to see a psychologist, or I think you need to take vitamin C or something like that, because that's not what they do. They do surgery. So anyway, you know, it's okay. It's good to look at things differently and get a different perspective, and then maybe you'll get a different result. They've had that expression out for many years that says, you know, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity, because you can't get a different result if you do the same thing over and over again. Anyway, that was me in front of the NASDAQ. That's this big, huge, I guess it's like a 37-foot, like a jumbotron that was helping us to get the word out about the Skolnikoff method. And apparently worked out pretty well. Okay, yeah, if you have questions, we'll start to go through them. Let me try to get through the slide that goes over the Triad of Health. This slide does go over the Triad of Health, but we have another slide that's even more beautiful for you. And once we've gone through that one, then, feel free to start asking questions. I'm still trying to figure out how to mute people or not mute them. Let's see, chat, rename, allow. I have no idea how to do that. Maybe one day I'll figure it out. Okay. Maybe one day I'll call the Zoom people and have them like teach me how to use Zoom. And then that way everybody will not have to suffer as much when we're doing the webinar. All right. So this is showing you what I was talking about, the difference between what we do in our office, Triad of Health Family Healing Center in Santa Fe, and what people do when they're going to your traditional healthcare provider. Normally, if you go to a healthcare provider, they're just doing one of these three sides of the triangle. So they're doing the chemical therapies, like using herbs, homeopathy, nutrition, allopathic, prescription medication, or something like that, even bioenergetics, possibly, which is unusual. Or they're doing emotional therapies, like they're talking to you about your past and things that happened when you were a little person. They could be like a psychologist or marriage and family therapist or a social worker or something like that. There might be a social worker on the webinar, except they might not have been able to make it. Okay, we'll see. And then if you normally, to get structural therapies, you'd go to a chiropractor, a surgeon, a massage therapist, right? But it's very rare that you'll find a healthcare provider that's doing all three categories of therapies, which is what we do in our office. That's why we're talking about this. That's why it's muy importante, very important. Looks like my little PowerPoint sort of does what I want it to do. Oh, there we go. Okay. This is Betsy Nicholas. Betsy Nicholas, we met her a couple of years ago for the first time. And as you can see, this was before she got treated. She was not feeling great. She had a lot of inflammation. This doesn't say before anywhere, but just trust me, this was before we started helping her. And she came to our office and she said, doctor, I'm scheduled to get my gallbladder removed this week. I think I need to go to that appointment. And I said, well, Betsy, we've done the exam now. We understand what's wrong. We have the keys to help. We can help you. We can dissolve the gallstones that are causing your gallbladder not to work. That's leading them to think that they need to have your gallbladder removed. Just because they don't have the therapies to dissolve your gallstones doesn't mean that we can't dissolve your gallstones. Oh, good to have you, Magdalena. Thanks for joining us. Leslie, thanks for coming. Anisha, Lane, you guys are great. Even iPhone 510-274-9868, we're very happy to have you. So I just thought I'd let you know that you're loved here. And Annie and iPhone, one of the iPhones, I'm not sure who you are because I know your name is not iPhone, but okay. So she had, I don't know if you can tell from these photos, but she has, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis a couple of years before, and half of her face is drooping because she has Bell's palsy and trigeminal neuralgia. In addition to that, she had been taking blood pressure medication for 10 years, even though she's only 30 at the time that she came in. So we got started helping her with her health, and these headaches that she had were so bad that she was having to take Excedrin and Advil for the headaches. The Excedrin and Advil caused her to have a stomach ulcer or two. The stomach ulcers bled so much she became anemic. The anemia was so bad she had to get blood transfusions. It was a big mess. And she was so exhausted from the anemia that she needed to end up, well, she didn't need anything, but she was falling asleep at the wheel of her car, and she even crashed her car once or twice. Yeah, it's pretty disastrous. So anyway, like I said, we did start to treat her and things changed around really quickly. She had been suicidal. Go ahead.
I don't think I'm going to listen to it.
You don't want to listen to how we cured Betsy Nicholas of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That's okay. You don't need to listen. it's being recorded. So not many people can help with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So anyway, so we started helping her. We did the structural, chemical, and emotional therapies. We gave her quite a few flower essences. We helped her with the trauma that had led to her having all the upsets and pain. Whoops, that's the after we treated her. Trauma actually is trauma, and pain is registered in the limbic portion of the brain. And the limbic portion of the brain is the emotional center of the brain. So it was really helpful to use the flower essences and do the emotional therapies that we did in the office to help her. So after just a couple months, or actually it was only 1 or 2 visits, we got rid of the headaches that had led her to need the aspirin and the Excedrin and the and whatnot. And then she started having more energy. She was thinking more clearly. She got off the medication she'd been on, which was Synthroid. She got off her blood pressure medication. She was in a good mood. I mean, everything changed for her. So this is the after photos here. Still having some issues with getting this thing to work right. And as you can see, that's me in the bottom right. She lost a lot of weight, and she's just this around a 5'6" tall Latina lady. So she lost about 20 pounds, which made a really huge difference for her. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. And again, so we got rid of almost all of her Hashimoto's symptoms, which was a big deal. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. This is the same thing you saw. We're going through it at least 3 times. This is the Triad of Health. So there's a structural component to every health concern, like if you were to fall after, when you're playing volleyball or something like that. There's a chemical component or nutritional component. So a lot of people are taking prescription medication for something or another. Actually, it's over half the population does. And so that addresses chemistry that's imbalanced. And then there's an emotional component to every health concern. Every health concern has these 3 causes. So it makes sense that we have the 3 therapies to help with the health concerns. We're going to also talk about our exam. We're offering our exam, which is about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, at a discount. So if you hang in there till the end, you'll be able to get a chance to have our discounted exam, which is normally $300. And it's a completely different type of exam that gets different information from your health history. Like we actually take a diet history to find out what you've been eating for a few days, because a lot of people are eating things that are causing them not to feel well or that they're allergic to. They don't really tend to do that at any of the doctors I've known or been to that are conventional medical doctors. I even saw an allergist myself a couple of times. They never even asked me what I'd been eating. I was like, you don't want to know like what I eat to see if maybe that's causing a problem? No, we're just going to do some tests and we're going to scratch you and see how you respond to the scratch. Okay, sure. No problem. Whatever we need to do. All right. So this is Graciela Cruz. She came all the way from Honduras, from Central America, to come and get treated. And she was having a lot of trouble with her thyroid as well. She had not been diagnosed with Hashimoto's or anything like that, but she was in quite a bit of trouble. So she was getting depressed. She was doing a lot of drinking, alcohol drinking and smoking, like pot, I guess. And she was just having trouble getting her mood to be stable and getting her health to be stable. And her weight was also really high. So she's really not very tall. She's another not very tall Latina lady. I guess she's about 5'4" or 5'3" even. So she also lost 17 pounds. Her mood improved. We only treated her 3 times, and it really made all the difference for her. Her mood improved. She was happy. She lost the weight. She also had some better relationships with friends and family, and it really transformed her. This is an interesting story. By the way, these stories, you can find them on our website at triadofhealth.net. Maybe I should send you that link if you want to check it out. But where's the chat here? Oh, here it is.
Eva Pilgrim on this case again tonight. Eva, thank you. down to the southern border, and tonight the Biden administration is now proposing stricter.
Okay, somebody's got their TV that we got a chance to listen to. Okay. Anyway, so that's the website. We help sick people get well quickly. And so we have a variety of different payment options and different kinds of patients, programs for different kinds of people. We don't do a whole lot of insurance billing because insurance doesn't cover the things that we do. That's, you might have noticed that. If you're asking the question about Dionysia, if we take insurance, well, we could, but then you wouldn't have all the benefits of what we're showing you here because insurance doesn't want to pay for what we do. So we get about 30 or more, 30 times faster results than any other healthcare provider in the northern part of the state because we're addressing the underlying causes of people's health concerns in a completely different way, as you can see from what we're going over. So this is Cynthia Tom. She had already been to, she had a cardiologist that she had been seeing. She had an endocrinologist to help her with her blood sugar because she had not full-blown diabetes. I mean, it was kind of like borderline. It was pre-diabetes, but really close to being diabetic. And she also had the CPAP machine she was using regularly. She was taking a statin medication that lowers cholesterol. She was taking Ambien for about 16 years. And she had these 1 or 2 medications she was taking for pain because she'd had several failed low back surgeries and several failed left knee surgeries. Anyway, to make a long story as long as possible, we started treating her, and because the treatments were so effective, we were able to help her with all those things at once. So if she had been continuing the way she'd been going, she would have had to have seen, like I said, a surgeon, she'd have to see the endocrinologist, she'd have to see the internal medicine specialist, she'd have to see the cardiologist, she'd have to see all these different people. Instead, we helped her with all those things in our office because we're using the Skolnikoff method that we are starting to talk about, and also the Triad of Health, which is totally unique. Actually, the Triad of Health is not totally unique. It's a part of professional applied kinesiology, but it's not a lot of people are familiar with professional applied kinesiology. So, all right. And I could use fancy words like psychoneuroimmunology, but then you don't know what I'm talking about, and that's not very helpful. So maybe I won't do that. All right, so that's her before, and then if this thing is going to behave itself, that's Cynthia Tom afterwards. By the way, Cynthia Tom's a very well-known artist in the area. She has a group of women that meet regularly called A Place of Her Own. So she's like a powerful leader of women who are struggling with all kinds of trauma and whatnot. So, and A Place of Her Own is basically like an art workshop that she facilitates. Okay, so anyway, she was happy not to have to see all those different healthcare providers and just go to one person who could help her. You can see she lost about 49 pounds. She got off the CPAP machine. She got off her Ambien. She got off her pain medication. She got off her cholesterol medication. She was in a good mood most of the time, not all the time. And her knee pain was gone most of the time, but not all the time. And that was over just a few months, right around 4 months or so. So it wasn't a quick fix by any means. I mean, I'd love to tell you it happened like in one visit, but that's not what happened. All right, let's see what else. Oh, that's me. Thank you, thank you. Hey, it's like the same kind of thing almost. All right, anyway, the Skolnikoff method is the name of the book that we've been talking about, where we go over autoimmune disease, thyroid disease, mood disorders, hormone imbalances, and gut health. The book was really well received. This is me talking about the book over at Philadelphia College of Physicians. Okay, I'm talking about autoimmune type symptoms there. I'm actually talking about my own story having to do with really severe cystic acne and also something called andropause and menopause. Most people have heard of menopause. Not a lot of people have heard of andropause, which is the same as menopause, but for men instead of women. Do we need to see someone in person? No, we don't need to see someone in person, Leah. Thanks for asking. but most of what we're talking about here is an offer that's offered for people in person only. So this offer doesn't apply that we're offering at the end of the webinar for people who are doing virtual consulting. Thanks for asking. That was a really good question. Okay. And the Skolnikoff method was well received at the Royal Society of Medicine and at Oxford University and Cambridge and even the London Stock Exchange. I was really fortunate to be able to meet Lord Nigel Farage, who developed Brexit. Okay, so we're located in San Rafael, like I was saying before. Okay, Dionysia, and then the website could be convenient for you as well, if you want. You know, I guess part of the thing that, you know, when you're looking at a new healthcare provider for the first time and you haven't really met them before, it's like kind of nerve-wracking, you know, you don't know what's going to happen next. And what if they're great? What if they're terrible? You know, so just relax. I'm not saying I'm great or terrible, but the issue is also there's a lot of confusion because, you know, you're probably not feeling well. Otherwise, why would you want to look at a healthcare provider unless you're just involved in healthcare maybe? And so I remember when I wasn't feeling well, I was looking for different healthcare providers to get support. One of them was a medical doctor, actually, and he had these nutritional supplements that he made. And when I called his office, that's what he's famous for, by the way, is these nutritional supplements. I don't know, and he helps people with like chronic problems. So when I called his office, they said, look, you know, if you're going to come in and be a patient, we want to know that you're going to be a patient over a long period of time. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a patient over a long period of time. I want you to help me quickly so I feel better so I don't have to be a patient. Like, what are you talking about? And so what we're talking about is not feeling, you know, feeling bad forever. We want you to feel better soon. And so these therapies are incredibly effective. These people that we've helped got better, you know, all of them either within 1 to 2 to 3 visits or within 4 to 5 or 6 months. So the reason why we've had these great results is because I've developed a number of skills and training to be able to help these people that, well, our patients, I should say, that it's completely different than the skills and training of most other healthcare providers, at least in Northern California, for sure. I can tell you that as a fact. This is, you already know who Dr. Oz is. I don't need to tell you, but Dr. Oz really helped me to get the word out. And he said, people don't care about how much you know unless they know how much you care. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's right, Dr. Oz. And then he talked about how if I have a smoker as a patient, I shouldn't try to convince them that smoking is bad for them. I should just tell them, look, you know, if you keep smoking and you end up having a lot of health problems, think about how your family's going to have to take care of you. Think about if you pass away, how that'll affect your family and how hurt they'll be and how sad and upset they'll be. And that's what he shared. I thought that was like really a big deal. He also said inflammation is misunderstood because a lot of people used to think of inflammation as being this esoteric thing that they couldn't really put their finger on. But they still were able to identify it because they could look at people's tongues in Chinese medicine, and they could also check their traditional Chinese medicine pulse points, which we do in our office. And they could look at a person's complexion to see, for example, if they had liver spots, and they could do all these things that we do in our office. These things are really effective. They're actually more effective than a lot of the lab results that a person would get, like C-reactive protein or leukocytes or whatever, basophils or, you know, all these different things that you'll see on a lab. So I don't know. He helped me to get the word out into the public about a different way to look at things, you know, and now more people are learning about the Skolnikoff method. And Evander Holyfield is a really great guy. I don't know if many of you have heard him talk much, but when I met him, he told me, you know, life is all about believing. And if you really believe in something, you can make that thing happen. So apparently when he was a little boy, he was only 7 years old, and he started boxing already at 7 years old. And he wasn't sure if he would get in trouble or not because he was only 7 and his mother was a little bit strict. So he went back to his mother and he said, Mom, I have a question about this boxing thing. Do you think if I started boxing, I could, one day I could maybe even become, really good and possibly compete, in national championships and whatnot? And his mom said, well, I'll allow it. Okay, no problem. So then his coach told him, look, Evander, one day you could be a world championship boxer. And he said, Coach, but I'm only 7 years old. His coach said, yeah, but you're not always going to be 7 years old. And the following week, he turned 8 years old. And sure enough, the rest is history. We know that he became the world heavyweight boxing champion 4 times undefeated. Okay. Jenny, South San Francisco. No, Jenny, what happened? Jenny? Oh, Jenny.
Sorry, just asking where am I located?
Oh, you're located in South San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend in South San Francisco. Her name is Virginia Perez. Virginia Perez is right around 90 years old, actually, right now. So if you take care of your health, you can live a long, long time. Okay. Thanks for sharing with everybody where you're at. Soon we'll go through the Triad of Health, and then, if you have questions, I mean, I'm not like opposed to your asking questions. Go ahead. I just don't want you to miss the whole point. So, and I think it's easy for people to mute and unmute themselves, I guess. I don't know, maybe. So Drew Pinsky is another person I found really interesting. He's very practical. He's a really good guy. I used to listen to his Love Lines radio show when I lived in Los Angeles. And he said, all medication is gradations and differences. And so there is such a thing as spontaneous recovery. It really does happen. He was he's very optimistic. He's like, no matter what happens to you in life, no matter how difficult things become, there's always hope. Don't give up hope. We shouldn't let the past determine our future. So he's a very optimistic fellow. I was really happy to meet him. And Dr. Mark Siegel from Fox News, he's a little bit more, what's the word for it? Abrupt, or he's a busy fellow. He just said, drugs are bad, cocaine is bad, and it stresses the heart. It's best to lead more of a natural life and to remain calm. And that's one of the things that we promote in our office. Okay, Annie, thanks for asking. Yeah, vinegar, good question. So everybody's arthritis is a little bit different. And but the main thing with arthritis is that usually people are not what everyone is being told. Everyone's being told that they're too acidic, and most of the time our guts are too alkaline. And so the question you're asking is really good because it's confusing, right? You're being told all these different things by different people. But in my patient population, if they have apple cider vinegar or another vinegar, that would cause them to be a little bit more acidic, and it also can disrupt the natural pH of their gut. So vinegar is loaded with bacteria, so that wouldn't be a good idea unless you are not having arthritis, like maybe if you're an athlete or if you're in training, or if you have a dedicated healthcare provider that's kind of working with you one-on-one. If they're monitoring you and they're suggesting something like that, then obviously you want to try to work with your doctor on that. But yeah, no, that I haven't seen that in my patient population as being so helpful. Sparkling water causes arthritis. I'm not being funny. I don't get upset at me, but that's ironic that you're asking about sparkling water, because sparkling water causes arthritis, and the research is in on that. Doesn't even matter if I agree with the research or if you agree with the research, but since they've done all this research and they finally decided, look, that causes bone disease, osteoarthritis basically, or osteopenia. If you already have arthritis, you might want to try to do your best to cut back on sparkling water. So hope that helps a wee bit. And this is myself and Tony Robbins. Thanks, Nader, for joining. Appreciate it. It's good to see you. Is that Nader? That doesn't sound like Nader, though. That sounds like somebody else. Maybe that was Nader's son or something. All right. Tony Robbins is the self-help guru. He said, whatever happens to you in life, it doesn't really matter. Kind of like what Drew Pinsky said. It's how you respond to the input that makes all the difference. Life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. I mean, it's like, you're walking down the street, you stub your toe's bleeding all over the place. Maybe there's a reason you stubbed your toe. Maybe there was a car coming that was going to hit you. If you didn't get off the street, you'd have got hit, but now you stubbed your toe, you're lucky, right? So it's hard to see that at the time. It just seems like, why did I stub my toe and have my toe bleeding? But he's really, I find him like amazing and fascinating. So, great. So Sylvester Stallone, not many people have not heard of Sylvester Stallone. He said, sometimes in life, you get kind of like hit and you just need to go in one more round, and that's what makes all the difference in life. So I met him at a seminar, like a health expo, and he confided in me that he had all these problems growing up with his hormones. It's like, who would have figured that, Apparently he took hormone replacement therapy for many years. I'm not sure if it was testosterone or a combination of different hormones, but anyway, he took, something that's like human growth hormone, so very similar to testosterone. And he swears by both chiropractic and Ayurvedic herbs. One of the Franco Columbu, one of the trainers who trained him for Rocky, was actually a well-known chiropractor and really, really well-fit trainer. I mean, you might have heard of him. So anyway, he, competed in Mr. Olympia and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited to have gotten to know some of these people. I feel really honored. All right. And Dog the Bounty Hunter talked about how his wife had 4th stage cancer, and she would have been alive now if she just found a healthcare provider, kind of like myself, who could have found something that comes from the earth that could have helped his wife to survive. So anyway, he's like a healing kind of, I don't know if he's like my favorite celebrity, so to speak, because he's like really, really down to earth. He like is part American Indian. So like every now and then he'll like talk to animals and stuff. He'll have, hawks and things come and land next to him, and I'll have like a little conversation with them. He's a really interesting person. Okay, this is the slide we've been waiting for, folks. You notice that a healthcare provider is far more excited about certain slides than a prospective patient might be, right? It's like, it's a different way of looking at things. But anyway, this is like my favorite slide, okay? So normally when you go to a healthcare provider, you're going to one of these different healthcare providers. You can go to the structural, chemical, or emotional healthcare provider, right? Take your pick. So for example, let's say you're really depressed and you're taking an antidepressant. It would make logical sense, at least, that you would be going to a marriage and family therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Like my father was a psychiatrist, which reminds me, we're going to share a quick story in a couple minutes about my father. So, and if you were having chemical imbalances, you would go to a nutritionist or an herbalist. If you had emotional imbalances, you'd go to a psychotherapist. But there's rarely one healthcare provider who does all these therapies and has all these therapies at their fingertips. Like it's like the only way that you could do that would be to put all these people in a room and get them all to talk to each other. But then each person would have to know what the other person is thinking. Like, how are you going to do that? That's like almost impossible, right? Well, but it's not. We have the Triad of Health. So it is possible to do that with the therapies that we have. Okay, so that was the slide that I wanted to share with you. Okay. An applied kinesiologist is somebody who's a specialist at understanding the underlying causes of people's health concerns by understanding the relationships between muscles and organs and glands and all these different parts of the body. It's like a whole language that we have to talk to your body with. So I want to share with you a quick story. So my father was a psychiatrist, and one day I came home from I can't remember if I was at school or where I was at work or whatever. And I said, hey, Dad, I figured out what I want to do for a living. I want to go to chiropractic school and study to become a chiropractor. So he says, okay, can you actually make money doing that? You know, those were his exact words. Can you actually make money doing that? I said, yeah, Dad, actually, some chiropractors do really well and they make even more money than you do. He goes, oh, okay, well, that's good then. And to my father's credit, he paid for my entire chiropractic school education. But I can remember there was a lot of conflict in our conversations. Like we would sit down to eat, and my brother, who's a marriage and family therapist, would really connect with my dad. And they'd have a good time talking about psychology, obviously. And since I do emotional therapies, I'd ask them, hey, Dad, have you ever heard of David Hawkins's book, Power versus Force? He's the well-known psychologist, or actually psychiatrist, who talks about muscle testing in his book and how it can be used to raise a person's level of consciousness. He says, that is a very interesting theory. I said, okay, Dad, well, he actually had diplomats of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology right there in front of him performing the muscle tests for nearly 20 years. And he was able to determine very deep and vital things about human consciousness. He developed an entire map of human consciousness. It's amazing. He goes, well, that is very interesting. That's an interesting theory. So I said, well, what theory, Dad? I mean, he said, I don't know if I believe in all that, but it is an interesting theory. I said, well, what don't you believe in, Dad? You don't believe that he wrote the books that you never read or heard of? You don't believe that he developed an entire map of human consciousness? You don't believe in the muscle testing? I mean, what don't you believe in? What's with the theory? He said, well, I'm really not interested in all that. But it is, I don't believe in all that, but it is an interesting theory. I said, well, I thought you'd be interested because he's a well-known psychiatrist like yourself. Well, no, son, I'm not interested. And, that's my final word. I said, okay, no problem. We don't have to keep talking about it. What about Bruce Lipton, Dad? Have you ever heard of the great epigeneticist, Bruce Lipton? Well, no, son, I haven't. Well, he's the one who figured out that we can change our genes by changing our thoughts. He developed actually epigenetics and wrote a book about it as well called The Biology of Belief. It's pretty interesting. So, okay, that is a very interesting theory. Theory? What theory, Dad? This guy also, he's traveled around kind of like David Hawkins. He's lectured about epigenetics. He taught at a medical institution, molecular biology, for nearly 10 years. It's not some theory. It's the cutting edge thing. How the genes express themselves can be altered, and it's been researched over and over again. It's not just some theory. It's like the new thing in science. It's a big, big deal. He said, that is very interesting, son. That is a very interesting theory. I said, oh man, look, there's this other time where I showed them these amazing success videos. All these people I've been showing you, we have their videos on our website under testimonials or video testimonials. So anyway, I showed him some of those videos and he goes, well, that's great, son. It's just a matter of time before lots of people will be coming in to see you. I said, well, you're not feeling very well these days, Dad. Maybe I can help you. He said, well, thank you for telling me that. I'll have to look into that. It turns out he didn't look into it. He died of multiple diseases. I never was able to help him. He wouldn't let me. He wasn't open to it. But I've dedicated my life to helping as many people with their health as I can. And I'd like to help the group of people here on the webinar in any way that I can, because I can assure you that what I do is not theory at all. You can see this 5 or even 100,000-year-old diagram from traditional Chinese medicine, which is not a theory, okay? The therapies that we do, that we are offering people in our office, they change people's lives. So that's the point of my story. And also you got to take care of your parents, I guess. That's another point to the story. Okay, so you can see all these relationships. Hopefully you find that helpful. So by understanding the science that does go back, and in the case of every therapy we use in our office, all these therapies are going back at least several hundred years, if not thousands of years. So this kind of helps give you an idea that if you're having trouble with your stomach, you might be somebody like a doctor or a school teacher who's always trying to help people. You're empathetic, you're sympathizing. Singing is a whole other thing that's kind of makes it confusing. But anyway, so I thought you might find that interesting. This is Mark Anthony Stevens. I was talking to him on the phone, and he does this search engine optimization. He was all the way up in Vancouver, Canada. I guess I didn't even realize when I was talking to him that he was in another country, but he was in another country in Canada. And he says, look, I have all these headaches once a month. And, you know, I just want to help you with your SEO, your search engine optimization. I said, okay, well, that's great. But what kind of headaches and what else? He said, well, I have glaucoma also. So he flew down from all the way up in Canada to the office in San Rafael, and we started helping him with his headaches. And I didn't expect this to happen, but in one single treatment visit, the headaches that he'd had for literally 35 years that were causing him to throw up a couple of days a month and have these really severe migraines where he couldn't work or function, we got rid of all those headaches he'd had for all that time in one single treatment visit. So I do admit that it took several hours to have the visit. Okay, it was not, I make it seem like a quick fix, but it was quite a few hours. And then I followed up with him obviously on the phone, but sure enough, you can see his story also on our website. So I'm really, pleased to have helped him with that. Okay, is anybody starting to develop any more interesting? Let me see if anybody put any more questions on here. I hope I didn't give a bad answer or something. I'll see if I can send you out a recording, Miriam. I don't know if you're leaving or you got to go. Yeah, if you need to, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so we'll do that. I don't know if you're listening to me say that, but so when we're doing diagnostic tests for new patients, Teresa, we're going to talk about that in a bit, but we're doing over 30 different tests for behavioral, emotional, and learning disorders. So when Arlene Cotto came in, first we did the exam, right? That's the most important starting point. So during the exam, we're uncovering all the stones and we're finding out what's your life story. So let's say I'm talking to, well, I am sort of talking to Teresa right now, but I could be talking to Annie or Priscilla or Elaine or Anu, or I could be talking to any of you, Margarita. So we want to find out first and foremost what's wrong, why you're coming in, and which therapies we have that can help you. So we have to identify what the pattern is that's happening with your health. Once we understand what the pattern is that's happening with your health, then that's good news. That means we should be able to help, and fairly quickly. But that is really crucial. And so that process is different because we use herbs and homeopathy and nutrition and flower essences and right-left brain balancing. And we use the professional applied kinesiological assessment. We do over 30 different tests for behavioral, emotional, and learning disorders. We check for nervous system and spine disease. We're checking for nutritional deficiencies. We're doing a zinc taste test, an iodine skin test, an oral pH test. We're doing functional blood pressure testing and 3 different postural positions to learn more about the health of your glands and organs so that we can understand the pattern better. So when we're doing the naturopathic portion of the exam and the traditional Chinese medicine portion of the exam, combined with all these other things, it's really different. Teresa, does that answer your question? Are you still there? Well,
yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, sure. But we will go over that question again because it's a really good question. Almost everybody has good questions, except for if I ask a question, then people kind of look at me funny sometimes. But all right, so this is I'm like having like a brain fart here for a second. Let's go back for a second. Elena Saxton came to us, and she was, how do I put it? She was like in a pretty good mood when she came in for her exam, actually. That's how I would put it. She looks like she's in a good mood here, but it's not that was always in a good mood, but on that particular day, she was in a good mood. And she told us about how she'd been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and none of her healthcare providers had ever told her how serious of a condition Hashimoto's thyroiditis is. It's an autoimmune thyroid condition that's very, very common. I mean, like extremely common. I would say I would say more than 40% of the population actually has, if not Hashimoto's, something very close to what may soon become Hashimoto's. It's that common. I mean, there's no exaggerating there. So anyway, the point is that she didn't realize that a lot of what was going on was a big deal that she could actually change. So she was having some headaches that weren't that bad, but she was getting depressed. And every day when she got home from her work, where she just started this new company with her partner that referred her to me, who was a diabetic, she ended up being so exhausted that she'd have to take a nap. Then she'd wake up, she'd eat something for dinner, and then she would go back to sleep afterwards. And she would just do this day in and day out. And she couldn't hang out with her friends, even though she's a really sociable person. She couldn't engage with people properly. She couldn't really go out much in public, or if she did, she would cancel events and things last minute because she was becoming very, I don't have a scientific word for you, but she's becoming freaked out about being in public, right? So, okay. Right, so when you normally, yeah, Leah, when you normally get diagnosed with one of these conditions like Hashimoto's, they tell you there's nothing you can really do because there's nothing that they can do, right? Like if you're a carpenter, the only thing you can do to fix things is use a hammer, a chisel, and a saw, and some wood glue, and some wood, and nails, and stuff like that, right? Some hinges. You can't really build a NASA spaceship that goes to Mars with people in it and then comes back with the people still alive, because that's not your training and skill level. I'm not sure why they don't refer out to me a whole lot, but I guess they don't want to lose business. I don't really know what's going on with the whole medical profession. I mean, I know I'm in the medical profession, but it's a little bizarre, to be honest with you. I mean, I've heard some stories from people too about if you need a surgery, they'll bring you in for the surgery. I guess I'm getting off track, but they'll bring you in, they'll do the surgery, and then if you need post-surgical operations or therapies, they won't even get you to come back because they don't have rooms available. They'll send you from one hospital to another to another. Nobody calls you back. And when they do call you back, they keep changing the time of your, like, I didn't even know this is what happens, but I've heard about it from patients and family members even. So anyway, they don't have therapies to help with these chronic conditions. They only have drugs and radiation and surgery. That's it. In our office, we have not just a wide variety of therapies. And I'm not just trying to brag, although I'm definitely bragging right now, if you're wondering what I'm doing. We have an unlimited number of therapies, so an infinite number of therapies. Why? Because that's how these types of holistic therapies work. I treat people with symptoms, but I don't treat their symptoms. I address what's causing their symptoms so we can go from them feeling not good to feeling good as fast as we can in a way that they're comfortable with. It's not like forced healing. Surgery is really important and amazing. So if you need a surgery, like I had to get a surgery and I wouldn't be able to adjust my patients properly with my, I guess it's my left arm, if I hadn't had that surgery. But so it didn't save my life, but it saved my left arm, right? Functioning properly. So that was like an emergency. And thank goodness I got it. But you don't want to have to be in a situation like that. Ideally, you just want to be able to heal or prevent these kinds of drastic procedures where you're needing a surgery or where you're needing to stay on meds for a long time. Anyway, all of Elena's symptoms went away. It did take about 3 or 4 months, but she was thrilled out of her mind. You can hear from her directly on our website. Okay. I don't know why I can't think of how to say on our website. Okay. You tell folks everything removed, but what's the root problem? Right. So, that's interesting. Again, Leah, Lane, I'm sorry. No, Leah said, Leah started talking about it. And then Lane said, that's what the hospitals does. They just tell folks. Yeah, you guys can also unmute yourselves.
Hi, Lane.
Hi.
I say that because like I've kind of lived 15 years of my life in a hospital and I have no clue why, but I'm learning by like what you're saying, those kind of therapies on my own, that's what it was. They was always treating me for something, but they never could tell me why. And it's like, that don't make sense to me. You're in charge of my care. and you don't know what's happening to me, but you're giving me all these medicines, you want to do procedures, but there's no root problem. And there is. And it's like, you know, I started learning more about how it goes. The medicines really was killing me. But I had to learn to listen to them because I couldn't find a holistic doctor who couldn't pay for it. But it was like, you know, kind of in a bad situation. A lot of us go through that. And some people just let it go unnoticed because they can't find help. You know, luckily since the pandemic, holistic doctors are being more out there. Like, I'm thankful for that, because I know that's where I can find the golden ticket for my health. I know that for a fact. And some people, like, I'm glad we're all on here, but even people, it's like, don't just listen to the doctors, because they do just want to, hey, just have something removed, or hey, take this medicine. Now you got 5 more side effects. Now you have these problems going on and you don't know why. You have anxiety, your brain fog because of what they're giving you. Like surgical procedures, they do help. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it does go back with emotional trauma, pain, whatever is going on in your gut, and so on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, like what we want to, well, I don't need to do this, but I think what it's good to think about is that the medical doctors, I would say, you know, 85 to 90% of them, maybe a little less than that, they have really good intentions. You know, they want to help you and all their patients. It's not that they mean poorly. It's that they just don't have the skills and training to really help their patients. Like, let's say we're talking about a surgeon, right? A surgeon has tons of skills and tons of training. And I mean, I don't know if I like or hate it. I mean, I don't know what my opinion is, but I think it's necessary. However, a surgeon knows nothing about how to prevent surgery. They just know how to do their surgery. So it would be foolish for me to put down a surgeon and say they're not great, because they are great. And I received surgery and it really helped me a lot. But at the same time, why not teach a surgeon a little bit about who to refer if people want to prevent surgery, or how to prevent surgery, or ways to heal without surgery, or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Like the fellow, I don't know why I always forget his name, but there's nobody really likes Bill Gates anymore, but there's the other guy who started Apple, that fellow, what's his name again? Nobody's gonna.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, right. So he ended up having this really bad pancreatic cancer, like a tumor, and he decided to get all these therapies, but he didn't get the right therapies, right? He went through all kinds of chemo and stuff like that, and then he ended up getting some, like a major organ transplanted, and you just, that's not like, that's no. It's kind of hard to like mix, you know, the NASA space shuttle that's going to go all the way up to Mars with people in it, and the carpenter who's building a desk. I mean, the thinking for each thing is totally different, you know? So thank you for reminding me that Steve Jobs has a name and almost everybody knows what it is, except for me at certain times. Okay. So here we're talking about water. Hey, that's important. Somebody is already asking about water, and we're going to go through that. A lot of people don't realize how important water is to good health. And I've recently been researching water more and more. I thought I understood water pretty well, but water is very mysterious, actually. You would think that water is going to be H2O, right? Because that's what we've all been taught. But water is not always H2O. That's one really interesting thing. Sometimes water can be like H3O4, and it's like a gel-like substance in your body that conditions organs and glands. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent a little bit. The point is if you don't have enough water in your system, water is what helps your body to eliminate poisons and toxins. And so dehydration causes more pain and inflammation in almost everyone. It's not like I'm just talking about one person here. So this is important, whatever we're talking about right now, right? Right. Okay, so if you are a human, you should be drinking at least a quart of water for every 50 pounds of body weight. And the good waters, we go over that with our patient population, but basically there's a lot of controversy about this subject, like huge amounts. Like I'll have patients yelling at me because I'm like, well, you can get Crystal Geyser water for $1 or $1.10 a gallon, and then you could drink that. And they're like, Crystal Geyser water, it's sold in plastic. And I saw this study and that study. It's like, okay, look, I didn't make up the rules here. I just trying to help you to get better hydrated, you know? So there's a lot of waters on the market that are okay, like Crystal Geyser and Aquapana, Panna, and there's something called Starkey's water, which is a geothermal water, and Simply Sedona artesian spring water. I think that's also a geothermal water. I'm pretty sure it is, because there's not a lot of water in Arizona, so you know it's gonna have to come from deep within the earth. There are little lakes and things, but it's not you know, it's Arizona, right? It's mostly a desert. Anyway, so that's a good thing that you can do to help with your inflammation. Any other people's having other questions? Kind of like Lane had a question a little bit. Not right now. Okay, the other thing.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I have another one.
Oh, great.
You mentioned the hormones imbalance with I forgot his name, Sylvester Stallone, right?
Yeah, right.
The whole last year, I've been hearing more of hormonal balance. I've also experienced myself, along with the brain fog and all of these other women things. And the first thing the doctors did were, oh, I don't know, or hey, try this birth control, try that one, implant this into your arm. And then one just said, you know, hell, for the fun of it, just have a hysterectomy. And it was like,
Did you do that?
No, I didn't do anything. I stopped picking up my phone because
Right.
they was and have this and do this. And it's like, no, there's a problem that this is going on. So as of January this year, it was like, oh, we got your labs, and you could be experiencing menopause. And it's like, but you just told me 5 months ago to have a whole hysterectomy. Like, it doesn't make sense. And so, but I'm hearing more and more women just getting things removed because of this problem, but not going to see what really is wrong.
Right.
Like, you know, and it's a lot of stuff that contribute to hormonal balance, stuff that we use, go on. It's like we can't escape it at some point. But
well, you can't escape it. Well, you can escape is a weird word. You can prevent it, right?
Okay.
You can't escape a thing like that, but you can prevent a thing like that. So here's some things I want to not do, if possible.
Okay.
I want to not put down like the medical profession or anything, or a certain portion of it, right? Like conventional medicine has its place, but I'll be honest with you, it's like I was saying earlier, I don't know if you got all that, but it's an emergency medicine model of healthcare. So they cannot help with chronic conditions, no matter how amazing they are at convincing everyone, to the tune of $3 to $7 trillion a year minimum. I'm talking about probably just the United States, if not other countries. That's how many meds they're selling. You know, if we're looking at worldwide, I mean, it's a lot more than that. So these meds, you know, 94% of them or 92% of them are, except for insulin and maybe some of the things for infections. There's a couple things like penicillin products. But other than that, they're almost all, they're just treating, you know, whatever, symptoms. You know, they're not really helping with what caused the problem, other than, like I said, a few things for infections and stuff like that. So they don't have the therapies available. They just have their therapy, which is the emergency medicine style. You know, that's basically, if you're out on a battlefield and your arm is dangling off, you need one of those professionals because they can save your life. But if you're somebody's texting a long message here. Thank you, Dionysia. I'm not sure. We just have a few minutes. I'll try to see what you got here.
Can I ask a question, please?
You can ask a question, of course. Let me just finish up with what she's saying. So the thing with the medical profession, again, is they don't have therapy. So they want to take out your ovaries and uterus because they have that therapy. They don't know how to balance your hormones. Are you kidding me? They don't have the training and skill to do that. Even the guys who wrote the books on it don't understand it that well, because I quote them in my books and they just kind of, they're saying what they've said in their books is that if you get a synthetic hormone like Premarin, that's, first of all, they first thought that was the same as if you get a natural bioidentical hormone. Then when they realized one causes you to get really sick because of not the side effects, Those are the effects of the drug. They know
Yeah.
that these drugs are dangerous before they put them out on the market. They're not
Right.
side effects. They're known effects of medications. So then after they realize that the bioidentical hormones are better, then they're trying to say they're safe when the Million Women study showed that they cause cancer, right?
Yeah.
So, and then all the holistic people are, all my medical doctor friends are training people to prescribe bioidentical hormones that cause everyone to get cancer. I don't do it. I'm not going
Yeah.
to tell you their names. I'm not
Right.
going to get in trouble. I'm just telling you that's what's going on.
Of
They don't
course.
even get it. They never studied the hormones in medical school. They just studied a few pathways. They got it. They got tested on it. They passed the test. They passed their exams. They got their degree. Then they went into their residency. The residency lasted a really long time. They did okay. Now they're in practice. They make good money, and that's their life. They don't know. They're not like a person like me or one of my colleagues that studies functional medicine. We study functional endocrinology. We study the hormone pathways. I know that thyroid releasing hormone is made in the hypothalamus, and then it goes to the hypothalamus that then sends out or that goes to the pituitary that sends a signal, which is thyroid stimulating hormone that tells your body how much of the thyroid hormone to make, but it's not going to make much at all because it's making T4. T4 is converted to T3. T3 is your active thyroid hormone, right? But 93% of the hormone is T4. So you have to convert it. Where do you convert it? 60% in the liver, 20 to 30% in the guts. They don't know any of that.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know any of that. How are you going to get them to help you with any of this stuff if they don't even know what they're doing? I'm not saying they don't know how to do a surgery. I'm not saying they don't know about the prescription medications. I'm not saying that they don't know about what they were trained to know about, but it doesn't matter if it's Dr. Hyman or Dr. Whoever. I mean, I love Dr. Oz, but he's a cardiothoracic surgeon. He'll tell you, he'll be the first to tell you, he's not a chiropractor. He's not a naturopath. He's not a homeopath. He's not a marriage and family therapist. He's not a psychiatrist. He's not a psychologist. He's not a traditional Chinese medicine acupuncturist. He doesn't know about how to do those things, but he knows a lot about what he knows about. I mean, he knows a lot more about me than I do about certain patterns, in the body that are related to, inflammation. He knows some interesting things, but he doesn't even realize that the main thing that causes inflammation is sugar, right? It's not like we just have a problem with cholesterol and then you have arterial disease, and then you have arterial disease. Maybe I should try not to dump water all over the place, but anyway, he just understands what he understands. So let me just clean that out real quick. Okay, anyway, so thanks for asking. What was the next question? I kind of went off on a tangent there, but go ahead.
My question is regarding my medications. I go to Kaiser, and my doctor was shocked when she saw I had high blood pressure because she knows me. I eat healthy, I exercise, and before I know it, I was on medication for blood pressure, and I'm on medication for anxiety.
Oh, no.
And I hear what you're saying is they don't have time to check into your progress and if those medications are causing more harm to me, because I really feel dizzy when the other day I fell and hurt my back, my spine, because I felt dizzy. And I'm 73 years old now. I never fell, but I truly believe it's part of the meds I'm taking. So if I come and see you, are you able to monitor my progress? And if those
Absolutely. We got Betsy Nicholas off her blood pressure meds she'd been on for 10 years in the first or second treatment visit. And we've been helping Elena Saxton to no longer need her, we skipped over Arlene Cato. Sorry about that. Arlene Cato was, how could I have done such a thing? She had Graves' disease. She had been diagnosed a few years before she came to our office. That's an autoimmune thyroid disease where you have hyperthyroidism. Some people with Graves' disease have their eyes stick out, right? I think somebody on this webinar, maybe or maybe not, has the Graves' disease. Yeah, they do actually. So I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just she had Graves' disease. So she was either burning hot or freezing cold. She couldn't function. She couldn't walk up a hill. When she did, she got freaked out because she was so exhausted. She had to call her boyfriend to come pick her up. She couldn't go surfing, which she likes to do. She couldn't work because her work required her to be in a public place interacting with other people, and she'd get freaked out being in public. She had to go hide herself in a closet. If somebody was wearing perfume in front of her, she'd have to run out of the room and because she'd feel so sick from the perfume that they were wearing. I mean, she was in big trouble. So she was taking methimazole, she was taking progesterone, and she was taking another medication. And we started treating her. And it only took like 3 visits. We got her completely off her medication. We monitored her on her medication. We don't prescribe the medication. We don't put people on the medication. We don't take people off the medication. They just decide they don't want to use it. And they can always get together with the healthcare provider who prescribed them their medication, who can monitor them on it. But you're seeing more and more what I'm talking about here, right? It's that I hope you guys are coming in to get help, and we're not going to continue with being on meds that we don't need, doing things that are dangerous. I mean, there's got to be, this is a better way, right? That's kind of like what we're doing is different. What we're doing is better. I think it's the best thing, but of course I'm biased in favor of, no doubt about it.
I think if my son is on this Zoom, he'll be very happy to hear that, because he's been asking me to stop those medication, but I can't stop cold turkey and not see the doctor about it. Kaiser,
No, you can't. That's why you come into our office. Yeah.
Okay. Nader, are you there, Nader?
I'm sorry?
No, I'm asking my son if he's on the Zoom, because
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
yeah.
Oh, that was him. That was your son. Oh, hi. I didn't know that was your son. Okay.
Yeah, that's my son. I invited him to listen to you because he just ordered like $300 worth of blood tests from Dr. Hyman. And I don't know what this is gonna help me with, but if you can answer that question, that will be great, because I'm scheduled to go get those blood tests.
Well, you could save the money, right? You could just see if you could cancel it and save the money so we can actually help you. Dr. Hyman doesn't have the skills and training that we have in our office. So it might be a waste of money, but if you want to get all those labs done to take a look at where you're at now, so we can compare it in 4 or 5 months to where you're going to be in 4 or 5 months when your lab, when we see the imbalanced lab findings balanced, that could be helpful. So it kind of depends on how you want to do all that. Yes, we treat rheumatoid arthritis. Absolutely, Rosemary. That's the whole point of the webinar, is to understand that these autoimmune diseases are my specialty, right? I wrote the 2 books about it. It's actually a double book. The Skolnikoff method is 2 books in 1.
Do you include Lyme's disease in that and chronic fatigue syndrome?
Technically, chronic fatigue syndrome, yes, but I don't want to get in trouble with the Lyme's disease. But yeah, we help with Lyme's disease, but it's not necessarily always considered a autoimmune disease. It depends on who you ask. Lyme's disease is an infection. It's a spirochete. Lyme's disease, wow, that's like so misunderstood. It's just dramatic. It's amazing, right?
Well, that's why I'm on this, because it's sort of like sometimes for
nobody's going to help you.
It's straightforward, but like you just got a tick bite and then got sick. But for most of us, it's like I had an infected tick bite like 15 years before it showed up, and then I've been diagnosed with like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, and now I have all these symptoms of like hypothyroidism. But like I thought once I got the Lyme disease diagnosis, it was going to explain it all. And I did have it, and so I went through all the treatment, but like I'm still a mess, so I don't know what's going on.
All right, who's talking right now?
Miriam.
Oh, sorry, Marianne. I got it. Okay, so Marianne, I guess I'm not pronouncing your name right, but just,
Miriam.
Yeah, thanks. Bear with me. So the thing is with the Lyme's disease is, if you see 30 people for help, that's great, but what are they going to do? If you see a Lyme specialist, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to help you with Lyme's. They're just going to, huh? What?
I don't even know whether to say I have Lyme's disease anymore, because I don't even know, I don't know how relevant it was to the whole health picture.
Right. Well, I'm trying to
slam dunk to go treat it.
I'm trying to explain it to you so you understand what you're in for. So, in other words, they call it a double crutch syndrome, which doesn't really mean anything unless you know what that means. In other words, Lyme's is never the problem. It's always all the other things that the person's dealing with. So if you go to a Lyme specialist, they're not really a Lyme specialist. They just want to get a bunch of patients who have Lyme's because they can do some labs and they can give antibiotics and different kinds of vermifuge. Vermifuge means herbs, homeopathy, or prescription meds or nutrition to kill an infection, but that's all they do. They don't know what's the emotional cause of your Lyme's. They won't treat the underlying chemical cause. They won't deal with the psychosocial, spiritual, emotional component of it. That's not what they do. They don't have those therapies available. They can't. All they have, especially if they're a licensed medical doctor, all they have is their drugs, their radiation, and their surgery, and their variety of drugs, radiation, and surgery. That's it. But Lyme's is like a chronic problem for a person. I've had Lyme's patients go to all these different people, and then they come to see me. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes they'll respond quickly in like 1 or 2 visits. Most of the time, it doesn't take more than 3 visits, 4 visits. So, I don't know. Anyway, so the whole exam, I was wondering if I would go over all this. I think I'll go over all this really quickly. I sent you guys all the link that you can use. The exam is normally $300, but just for the people who are participating here, I think there might be more than 27 of you, so you might want to hurry a little bit. We're in San Rafael. You can use that link that I sent you. I'll send the link again to schedule your exam. So it's only $47 instead of the $300, which is a good savings. Obviously, that's $253. Okay. Do I treat IBS? Yes, we treat IBS. It's more about what's causing your problem. I'm a specialist at understanding the underlying causes of those problems, and we have therapies to help. So I'm glad you're asking, Jenny. Wherever you are, Jenny, I guess you're there somewhere. You had your gallbladder removed.
Thank you.
Betsabee's,
Yeah.
that's the same name of Betsabee's sister who had her gallbladder removed. I'm assuming you're not Betsabee's sister, but anyway. And we helped her sister a great deal. You're not Betsabee's sister, are you? No.
No.
No. Okay. I'm just checking. I mean, it would have been ironic, but yeah. So that just means you're going to have a little more trouble metabolizing fat. But we can get your body still has your liver, and your liver makes the bile, and the bile goes in the gallbladder where it's stored, and then it's squirted into the small intestine. So you just don't have the gallbladder there, but you can still break down fat with bile. You just can't store it as well in the gallbladder. And some people even grow back their gallbladders. So anybody have any questions about what we went over earlier? The private consultation usually lasts about 15 or 20 minutes. We do the allergy testing, the hormone testing. It's about an hour. The exam's like, 45 minutes to an hour. I'm just looking to see what the pattern is. Once I see the pattern, that means that I can help. And my way of looking is different. The exam is different. The therapies are different. Thanks again for joining, Nader, to help out your mom. That's awesome. So,
So you do all of that in the first session that you're offering for that big deal
Yes.
for us?
uh-huh.
And then so then if we come back in, what are the follow-up prices?
Well, I don't know because we haven't done the exam yet to know what would be involved in helping you. We have people paying anywhere from like, $40 a visit to $2,200 a visit or $2,600 a visit. So, that would be tough. So first and foremost, we need to understand what makes Rosemary, what makes Leslie, what makes Marianne, what makes Nader's mom, right? So we need to understand the pattern. That all happens at the exam. Once we understand the pattern, that's the first step, right? That's what we do first and foremost. So we helped Arlene Cato no longer have Graves' disease. So whether you're having irritable bowel syndrome, gastritis, gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is pretty, it's actually fairly straightforward, assuming your stomach is still there and you haven't had a gastric bypass surgery. The approach is still the same, to understand the pattern. And luckily we have therapies to help. These are the methods of diagnosis that you see on your computer screen there. And then we also have the therapies that are similar to these methods of diagnosis. Like we have the osteopathic therapies, the herbal therapies, the energy medicine therapies that's listed on the right side. It's like the 5th one down. So yeah, so that's the first step. That's where we kind of like take a gauge of where you're at, and then we can measure everything. But we can't know how much, like you can't know how much it's going to cost to fix your car if you just call in and say, my car makes a weird noise when I go 50 miles an hour, and then it kind of slows down. You'd want to bring it into the mechanic and get diagnostics done. Okay. We don't play the insurance game. We just get sick people well. Some people are excited about finding somebody who actually has the skills and training to help them. And some people are not excited to find somebody with the skills and training to help them. So wait a second. We didn't even talk about you guys. Oh, there's the link. We didn't even talk about the path to health chart. Oh man, that's my fault. I'm the one doing the webinar. I'm the host. So we want to go from the symptoms you're experiencing, right? Whether it be low back pain or headaches or hot flashes or digestive trouble. To
Good.
May I screenshot that? Hello?
I can hear you, doctor. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good.
When did I mute myself, I wonder?
A while back.
Really? Okay, did anyone have any, did anyone have a question about the path to health chart? You didn't hear that? We want to go from the symptoms to feeling good as fast as we can, but as slowly as we need to, for you to get the long lasting and permanent results that you're looking for. So there are lifestyle changes involved that have to do with things like water that we're drinking, like we started to go over, and how much protein you're eating and what kind. That's actually where you get the bradykinins and the enkephalins and the endorphins. They come from protein. So protein helps with pain, right? If you eat protein, those are the raw chemicals that you need to get rid of pain, come from protein and fat. Okay, great. You're welcome, Carol. Okay, I think we're kind of there at the end. So that's the last slide there on the next page over here. And any other pressing questions? So that was the interesting thing about, you could get a bunch of labs done with Mark Hyman, which is fine. It could be helpful. But if one of the labs is checking protein in your body, it's really good to know where the protein is metabolized, because, oh, that's like not a real Rosemary. That's just, oh, you are live. I thought you were just like, it was a photo of you and you were it's like, I thought you had us tricked, but I got in trouble there. Okay. Yeah. So we want to
Monday, doctor. I booked.
You're coming on Monday. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for joining us.
Thank
So
you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So with the labs, if we're looking at like amino acids or protein and we're seeing whether they're high or low, that could be really useful, but it's also good to know, how is the person's digestion and how well is their stomach working? And there's specific ways to check that in the office that are even more profound than a lot of the information that we often get from the lab. It's not the lab, it's who's interpreting the lab. And the only reason why they tend to do labs is because they don't know something. They want to get more information. But if, for example, we get all the information we need to understand the pattern that's happening with your health from the exam in our office, where we do all these different things, then we may or may not need to do a whole lot of labs. Probably wouldn't need to do a whole lot of labs because we already get what we need to get to help you. Okay. Anybody else? I wonder if there's anybody who actually does have a still frame. Marianne's real. What about, oh no, everybody's really there. Some of you guys are moving very slowly.
Do we
Okay.
need to book it within a certain period of time to use that discount from being here?
Yeah, I would get it done because after the 27 people are, booked and we're out of space. So
That's
yeah,
like within a week?
I'm not sure how many people will schedule how quickly. We're gonna try to help as many people as possible, but we only have space in the next couple weeks. But in other words, I have space for about 27 people, but I'll do what I can. But yeah, I wouldn't wait too long.
I'm just going out of town, and so I.
Oh, no, you can schedule for another week, but you'd want to schedule soon, because otherwise it won't be $47 is the point.
Okay, I can schedule. You just schedule it soon, but I can schedule for like a month away if I need to.
I would think so. If not, let us know and we'll help you.
Okay.
Yes, you can. You can just scroll through the calendar and book in the future.
Okay.
Thanks, Rosemary. Well, that's it. I went over a lot. I'm sorry if I messed up any of your schedules. I feel a little bit funny about it. It was like 20 minutes past, but thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in the office. And I really did enjoy doing the webinar, and I had fun spilling my water and talking about the medical profession that's doing really strange things these days, really strange. So be careful of the medical people. Okay, watch out. It's not safe anymore at all. I don't know when it was, but especially nowadays. Okay, I mean that from the heart. I'm serious. It's a little scary what's going on. Okay, guys, thanks a lot, and ladies, we really appreciate your joining. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Medical.